Hi everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. We are holding a very special event, August 3rd through 7th, called Beginning Again Retreat. And it's for anyone who is recovering after a caregiving experience ends because of a caree's death. We are having panel discussions and presentations to support you as you heal from the intensity of a caregiving experience. And one of our presenters is joining me today, Beth Suereth. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning, Denise.
Beth is going to be part of a panel discussion during which we talk about a career change after caregiving ends. We know that a caregiving experience really changes us and how we define our values and meaning in our life. And that also applies to the work that we do in our life. So our panel discussion is going to talk about how, after a caregiving experience, our panelists actually decided to start a small business to help family caregivers. And Beth's business is called Caregiving Pathways. So Beth, why is this an important conversation for you to be a part of?
Because so many people spend years taking care of others, and the skills that they acquire are far-ranging and deep and are applicable in so many ways, but in particular to helping other family caregivers learn the ropes. And so for me personally, I just needed to take what I learned and help others go from 0 to 60 in a couple of months, when it took me 3 years to get from 0 to 60. So that's why I'm here.
Right, exactly. It's all about saving time, but I also think it's so powerful to connect to someone who has had that experience, because then you speak the same language. And I often can tell when someone is talking about a caregiving experience but hasn't had a caregiving experience, because the language is different. How we talk about caregiving is very different because of our personal experience. In addition, something that you've done, which is really quite powerful, is pick 2 specialties, meaning you help family caregivers in 2 very important situations. So tell us about how you help family caregivers.
Sure. I help family caregivers who have a loved one, a family member, a friend in the hospital, because the hospital system is a culture unto itself and has so many nuances that when you first go in there, you are not even aware exist, much less aware of how to manage them or navigate them. So that's one. The other is when the care plan becomes an end-of-life plan. And that's a very big shift in what takes place from the perspective of the healthcare system and the family and the person receiving care. And there's, again, so much involved in that. And if you've never been down that path before, you don't know, how would you know how to do it?
Exactly. You have been out of a caregiving experience for a few years now. I wonder, when you reflect on these past few years after your dad's death, when do you think it really clicked with you that there is a career change that's possible because of that caregiving experience?
Well, that's a good question. There wasn't a specific moment, but eventually it was really before it was during my caregiving experience. My dad had dementia, he had cancer, he had diabetes, all kinds of things. And little by little, as I discovered how much there is to learn, it occurred to me that, I should compile it all, put it in a book. I was a healthcare marketing person. That's an information sharer. That's what I did. And eventually it dawned on me to go look for information like that online. Why it didn't occur to me before then, I don't know. But you're so deep in caregiving that you don't think about a lot of things. And so once I went looking for some information, didn't find what I was looking for, I decided to create it. And so really that sort of, I came from there and went to here, and then to create it. Okay, well, so how do you get it out there? You need essentially a business. And that's how I ended up where I am today, really.
Which sounds so simple and easy, and is actually very scary and stressful and nerve-wracking, because the reality is you are taking a risk. Anytime anyone starts a small business, there's a risk. And I think in particular in our industry, there's a greater risk in taking on a business that serves family caregivers. And it really speaks to what you just said, because family caregivers are so busy. Sometimes it's hard to catch their attention. So how did you fight through that worry and fear that, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I can't do this, and say, I can do this and I am going to do this?
I was just so absolutely compelled to do it. I couldn't not do it. That's how strongly I felt about it. And in my mind, where there's a will, there's a way. So I figured out how to do it with the help of lots of people along the way, and that is absolutely essential. Denise was completely instrumental in my being able to do this, connected me with AARP, where I now work with them on family caregiving. I do a lot of writing for them. And even I became a skills consultant in Denise's certified caregiving consulting course. So that was another way of getting income. And through her website, her original website, I gained clients from having my profile posted there, a client I still have to this day. And so it's, little pieces here and there that you have to put together, and you have to be proactive. And there is that point where I had a real full-time good job. And when I gave my notice, it was nerve-wracking. And I thought long and hard about it, how I was going to manage. But I'm pretty resourceful. So I just sort of pulled all my resourcefulness together, headed down a path, and I went. And it was fits and starts. And there were times when I thought, oh my goodness, maybe I shouldn't have done this. But it all has worked out beautifully, thank goodness. You really have to just keep at it, but you have to keep at anything in life. So why not this?
Well, that's just it. And when you were talking earlier about the skills that we learn in a caregiving experience that really set us up to be small business owners, that's it. We keep at it during caregiving. So many people just can't be there on a regular basis because it's so hard. So the endurance that someone gains during a caregiving experience really speaks to the endurance that you need as a small business owner, because you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have challenges, you're going to map out something that you think, this is phenomenal, it's just really going to go straight forward, and then there's all these forks in the road and you think, how, who, which? It's really challenging. So talk a little bit about that endurance that you had during your caregiving experience that really helps you today as a small business owner.
Sure. When you're in a caregiving experience, I cared for my dad. I love my dad dearly, and there was nothing I wouldn't have done, no amount of energy I wouldn't have put in. And it wasn't, it wasn't like I wanted to do it. You just do it, because that's what your beloved dad needs, and you do it, and you don't think twice, and that's just part of life, you realize, and you just go, and you go until the end of life, when you have an opportunity to change, because suddenly you have all of this time and energy that you used to devote to that situation for years, and now you have to do something else with it. And what that is remains to be seen for everybody, but to take that experience and apply it to developing your own business is just, it's a natural segue. So you have a goal. My goal with my dad was to keep him comfortable at all times, to have him have a good quality of life and a peaceful death. And my goal for my business was to just make enough money to pay my bills and do good in the world, help people like me. So you just do it. It sounds so easy, Denise.
I know.
I don't mean it to sound like that at all, but it comes from so deeply within that you just keep going because you have a goal.
And actually, I can tell people who are passionate about caregiving in their small business because they're the ones that last. If you don't have that passion, it's a very difficult business to stay in because it does require endurance. It does require getting up every morning and saying, I've got stickednesses. What am I trying to say?
Stick-to-itiveness,
Yes,
perhaps?
maybe that's it. I'm going to stick with this.
There you go.
I am going to just keep doing the hard work because the hard work is important. And that's really what happens during a caregiving experience. I want to ask you about the void that you mentioned. When someone dies, our carrie dies, there is a significant void in our day, in our schedule, in our emotions, in our house, if our carrie lived with us. And that can be difficult. And I also think that void happens in a minute. So at time of death, that void starts. And there isn't necessarily a plan in place to help someone with that void, which is really part of the reason that we're doing this Beginning Again retreat, because we want to inform and equip people to help manage that void. For you, what helped you when that void hit?
Well, the first thing was settling my dad's estate. And he was very focused on making it easy for me to do that. And so I was very focused on making it happen right away. So that was sort of the segue where it was, I could attend to the tasks at my own convenience. You know, when you're doing caregiving, if my dad needed something or was in pain, you jumped that minute, didn't matter what else was going on. So it was a shift from having to do when it was convenient for the situation to when it was convenient for me. So that was sort of number one. It gave me time to process all that had transpired and think about exactly how I was going to move forward. Kind of get the feel from other people in my family about how they were moving forward. And it just, there's a channel of that there's that big void and it has to go somewhere. And you just sort of make incremental decisions until and all of a sudden you realize you are going.
Yeah, and I think one of the underlying themes that we've been talking about today is a community that you connect with. So as a small business owner, you're connected to our certified caregiving consultant community. And those are people that are really committed to your success. So you're not out there alone. During a caregiving experience, it can feel so lonely, like you're the only one. We really want anyone who starts a small business to feel connected to others who share that experience and want you to be successful. And I also think that it's important to be connected to a community after caregiving ends, so that you know you're not alone in the process you're going through to heal, because that can be a very lonely experience as well. So how do you look at your grief today, thinking about it as a few years after your dad's death?
So how do I look at it sort of relative to what I'm doing professionally?
Yeah, or just personally. So how does grief come up for you if at all now? And
okay,
how
so
do you look at it?
yeah, it definitely comes up in a weird moment where there's some incredibly strong reminder about the situation, your dad, something he loved, something that happened during the caregiving experience or involved in his death or shortly thereafter. But with my dad, because he had dementia for 5 years, I mourned him a little bit at a time that entire time. So toward the end, for me, it was different. My mother passed away suddenly, unexpectedly. It was awful. And with my dad, we mourned slowly. So toward the end of the caregiving experience, it was really more about guiding him safely to a peaceful end that he really wanted. He felt very strongly about avoiding a bad death. And a narrow miss on that path. And thank goodness he ended up having a very peaceful death at home, just as he wanted. So when I look back, to me, it's actually a time of peace, because I feel that my management of that situation, which was somewhat by chance, was really just the safe guiding of him into eternity. And so it was different with my mother, completely different. So a lot of grief depends on how prepared you were for it, how sudden it's not, or how much time you have when you really know it's imminent, and the support that you have afterward. So, for a couple of different reasons, I became an end-of-life doula. So I went through your training and the end-of-life training, your training for the Certified Caregiving Consulting course, and the training to become an end-of-life doula during the same summer, the year after my dad passed away. And so that was another organization that helped me sort of look at it, really examine it, and talk through it with people who understood. The piece about talking with about these things with people who've been there and understand where you're coming from and are actively engaged in wanting to help other people manage that is the difference.
Our Beginning Again retreat is a new event for us, but you're not new to our events. So we used to do a national caregiving conference. You presented at those conferences. You've been a part of other events that we've done. What can attendees expect from our events that we hold?
You can expect a wonderful experience. And even though you're dealing with grief, when you meet up with somebody who understands what grief is all about and understands how to help somebody else, how to guide somebody else through it, the warmth and understanding that you feel is utterly amazing. At all of the conferences, when talking to people one-on-one, which I did a lot, every single person would say, oh my gosh, I've never been to a conference like this. I've never met so many to the heart, nice people dedicated to helping other people get through a situation, in that case, caregiving situation. In this case, just sort of, the grief situation. And so it's the warmth and understanding, and at a really sort of professional level, but personal level. It's hard to explain, but wrap all of that together and that's what you get.
Actually, and at our National Caregiving Conference, we had tracks for family caregivers, those currently in a caregiving situation, and former family caregivers, because I wanted them to be connected to support. So we're just pulling that out into a virtual retreat. So you can join us for 5 days. We have presentations in the afternoon and the evenings. We're recording all our sessions. So when you register, you'll receive the archives of the days that you've registered for. You can register to join us for 1 day, for 2 days, or 5 days. And you can find out more information by going to careyearsacademy.com/retreat. And Beth, for our listeners who'd like to be in touch with you, what is your website address?
It's caregivingpathways.com.
Okay, so Beth will be part of a special panel of discussion, and it'll be one of our evenings where we talk about a career change after caregiving ends. Thanks for being here today, Beth.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I'm really looking forward to the event. It'll be phenomenal.
And thanks everybody so much for being with us. Again, go to careyearsacademy.com for more information. I'm Denise Brown. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.